President Biden met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in New York today. Their long-anticipated meeting comes amid protests in Israel over a planned judicial overhaul. CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes joins us now from New York. Nancy, what struck you about this meeting and its underlying contents?
Well, this was obviously a long-awaited meeting. In fact, Netanyahu tried to suggest months ago that he had been invited to Washington to actually sit down at the White House. That wasn't true. President Biden has made a point of not inviting Netanyahu to the White House, not extending that honor to an Israeli prime minister the way that he customarily would, because he believes that Netanyahu's cabinet, his government, his ideology has gotten too extreme. And so instead, they met on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly today. Not as grand as Netanyahu would like, but he will take it. What was also very fascinating, Major, is that typically when these meetings take place and the media is allowed in for a few moments at the top before we're ushered out and they really get down to brass tacks, normally those are pretty staid affairs. They don't make a lot of news, very boilerplate. You've been in a million of them. We call them pool sprays. But this time around, President Biden made it clear that he is not very happy with Netanyahu, and he wants to talk about it. Take a listen to what he said.
We're going to discuss some of the hard issues, and that is upholding democratic values that lie at the heart of our partnership, including checks and balances in our systems.
So I want to reassert here before you, Mr. President, that one thing is certain and one thing will never change, and that is Israel's commitment to democracy.
So you heard President Biden there saying, we're going to talk about democratic values. We're going to talk about checks and balances, because he believes, many in the Biden administration believe, that the Netanyahu government has taken this hard right turn, that they are trying to roll back the judicial system to give the executive branch more power. President Biden just came out and said it today, sitting there right next to Benjamin Netanyahu.
Nancy, I also want to play a soundbite. We call them in the trade a SOT, sound over tape, but a soundbite of the Prime Minister talking about ongoing negotiations that are being somewhat shepherded by the Biden White House with Saudi Arabia about full recognition and a sort of peace arrangement. Let's listen to what the Prime Minister said, and then the question to you is the White House as optimistic as Netanyahu sounds? Let's listen.
I think that under your leadership, Mr. President, we can forge a historic peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia. And I think such a peace would go a long way, first, to advance the end of the Arab-Israeli conflict, achieve reconciliation between the Islamic world and the Jewish state, and advance a genuine peace between Israel and the Palestinians.
All that, Nancy, is that possible?
It is possible, the White House says, but only if the Israeli government returns to the idea of a two-state solution. If they don't continue to build settlements in what would typically be assumed to be Palestinian territory, if they don't pull back on a crackdown against Palestinian people, if that all continues, the president himself has argued, then Saudi Arabia is unlikely to want that deal, want to normalize relations with Israel. And this is a big piece of leverage the White House has, because Israel would, as you heard the Prime Minister Netanyahu say, they really want to normalize those relations. First of all, because it gives them an extra buffer between Israel and Iran. They're very concerned about Iran and its expanding nuclear program. Obviously, Saudi Arabia, economically, militarily, is the biggest player in the neighborhood. And so from a security and safety perspective, Israel would very much like to normalize that relationship. But Saudi Arabia, the White House argues, is simply not going to play ball unless Netanyahu moves as well on Israeli-Palestinian relations.
Many potential possible positive outcomes there, but a long way away. Nancy Cordes in New York, thanks so very much.
You're welcome.